All right, so we're live. This is massive breaking news that just dropped a few minutes ago. It looks like that Elon Musk lost a plaintiff lawsuit against him in favor of the investor plaintiffs. The Delaware judge, uh, this plaintiff challenged Elon Musk's $55 billion Tesla pay package, and what the court filings is now showing is that they have to now give Elon a new pay package. I don't know what this means. We've got Jeff Lutz here and Larry Goldberg to try to explain all this to us. This court filing just arrived. We will in the show right now. We'll go through this and figure this out right now. But go ahead, Larry and Jeff. Or can you guys explain what's going on?
This is huge breaking news, and I'm not sure it's as simple as you made out. This is not a simple situation. This is a complex situation. And frankly, the judge himself is not clear what is going to happen. So I'll tell you what the conclusion of this finding of this 200 page judgment says. He says, for the foregoing reasons, and there are 200 pages of reasons, the judgment is entered in plaintiff's favor, that is to say, the people suing. The parties are to conform on a form of final order implementing this decision and submit a joint letter identifying all issues, including fees, that need to be addressed to bring this matter to a conclusion at the trial level. So the judge is frankly saying that this is too complicated for me. You guys come back and tell me what I should do. And he's telling all the parties, I mean, not only the plaintiff, but also the defendants. Because what he says in general is that this pay package was unfair to the company, that it was entered by directors who were friendly and related to Elon, and that sufficient consideration wasn't given. I mean, I'm trying to put it all into one simple package. But the judge says, I don't know what to do. You tell me what to do. After 200 pages. So I think we're in for a period of real turmoil. I don't know. It's hard to tell what Elon's response to this is going to be, but it's important to determine what happens. It is important in determining what happens to understand Elon's response to this. Some of the directors are no longer with the company. They've moved on. There are one or two new directors. This is going to be a royal pain in the side, and it's going to leave a lot of uncertainty in its wake. The stock is really not that reactive. It's down $3.89. So right now, I don't know whether the news just hasn't got out or whether we are sufficiently confident in the outcome of, that reasonable people will come to a reasonable judgment. But one thing's for sure, one thing certain, is that this enormous option package that Elon had is no longer available or valid, and it's going to take a long time to come to terms between Tesla and Elon, and this is not a great time to be doing this kind of change. That's my summary of the situation as far as I can make it at this point. I don't know how you guys feel.
I'm a little bit less pessimistic than you. I mean, the one thing is to reassure all those people that may know less about it than we do, is this is the option package. It's not as if it's cashed in something and has to reimburse something. This is, it's a lot of money involved, of course, but this is not something where there's a cash transaction and Elon needs to raise money here or whatever. That's not what it is. The second point is, this is the 2018 compensation package. There was a 2012 one. So you may remember that in November 2021, there was this poll whether he should pay taxes and whatever. That was originated of options that he got in 2012. So that was my question actually to you, Larry, earlier on, and then I researched it, so you were completely right. So it's not as if he has already executed any of these options that are concerned in this court case. The ones that he did execute were from the 2012 package, so that's not in question. The third point is, exactly, thank you. The third point is that the 2018 package was mainly negotiated with Ira Ehrenpreis as head of compensation. I don't know, because I wasn't then yet a Tesla investor, so maybe Larry can remember, whether they already had structured the board how it is structured now. Now the board has 9 members, if I recall it right, and they have 2 committees. Actually, have 4 committees. I'll send you that picture in a second, Herbert, so you can show it. And so the compensation committee is the one still headed by Ira. He was always the one in charge of compensation, meaning compensation of the executives and options for the employees and all that. That's his topic. And Ira has been, if I recall it right, on the board of Tesla since 2007. So he's no newcomer. He's a very close friend to Elon. And I am sure that his influence and position are going to be put in question now. So the compensation committee, if I recall it right, is today Ira chairing it, and then Robin Denholm and Kathleen Wilson-Thompson being the 2 co-members. So it's 3 people in it. And I can imagine that that's going to change. So why am I less pessimistic? Yes, this will still need to be hashed out. And one solution could be that Tesla just says, okay, we accept this, and the old compensation package is voided, which would allow to move on rather than now have months and years of negotiation with a opposing party, let's recall it, who is a short seller of 9 shares, right? This is completely ridiculous if you think about it, but it is what it is. So rather than going into year-long negotiation of how to arbitrage this, they could just say, okay, let's close this chapter. We're voiding this, which brings as an advantage to now being able to set up a new form of doing a compensation package. They will have to make changes on the board to solidify this so that it doesn't happen again. Maybe these changes have been made. I don't know how it compares to 2018, whether it was already in committee or not. But it has to be clearly demonstrated, much more clearer, set up. And let's not forget, Elon wants to get to 25%. Remember, we had currently a situation where, if I recall it right, he has 14. This option package that's now under scrutiny and may disappear. After taxes, we're going to add about 7 to 8%. So we were getting to close to 20%. And the new compensation package or whatever else was going to be put in place would bring us to 25. Now we're back to a situation, if really this gets voided, where we have to get from 13 to 25, right? So that's a much bigger step. And the other thing is, Elon deserved this compensation package. Shareholders agreed to this. So it's not as if he should just, write it off and whatever. But obviously, it has to be recuperated in one way or the other. How he was now deprived of it if they accept to cancel it.
Okay, I think maybe it's a good time for us to give a summary of what's happened. Jeff, is it okay if I read out what you asked Grok to do that? Then I'll get you to reply to it, okay? So basically what happened just a few minutes ago is a Delaware judge ruled in favor of this investor plaintiff. As Alexandra said, this person actually only had 9 shares that challenged Elon Musk's $56 billion Tesla pay package. And Delaware court case judgment Tesla was waiting for before they can give Elon a new pay package. Now, what do we do? Because if the previous one is actually, he lost that lawsuit. So here's what Jeff Lutz did. He asked Grok, what does this ultimate mean for Elon Musk? And he uploaded the trial opinion. This is what ChatGPT. This is what ChatGPT said. The document is a post-trial opinion from the Court of Chancery of the State of Delaware regarding a derivative lawsuit against Elon Musk and Tesla. It discusses the fairness of a performance-based equity compensation plan that was awarded to Musk. The court had to determine if Musk, as a controlling shareholder, influenced the compensation plan's approval process and whether the plan was fair. The opinion details the background of Tesla, Musk's involvement and motivations, his prior compensation plans, and the process leading to the 2018 grant. It scrutinizes the relationships between Musk and the board members that Alexander just covered there, particularly focusing on the negotiation approval process of the compensation plan. In conclusion, the court found that the defendants did not prove the fairness of the compensation plan and ruled in favor of the plaintiff, suggesting that a rescission is a reasonable remedy. This decision highlights the significance of fair dealing in pricing and executive compensation plans, especially in cases involving the influential and controlling figures like Musk. Then Jeff then asks, what are possible most likely outcomes? And then this is what ChatGPT says. Rescission of the plan. The court might order the rescission of the compensation plan, essentially undoing it. And in financial repercussions, there could be financial implication for Tesla and Musk, such as adjustments to Musk compensation plans or financial penalties. Whoa, Jeff, thank you for doing that. Did you want to add to this?
No, I mean, it's honestly just for speed. It's a 201-page report, and it's hard to get through the whole thing in a few minutes. But I think I agree with both Larry's feedback and Alexander. I mean, the court basically is like, the ball's kind of back in your court. It's a little bit surprising versus kind of just striking down the ruling and moving on. This I would imagine. I mean, again, a couple of different paths this could go. They could appeal and get a more reasonable judge. I don't think there's not a jury involved here of his peers reviewing this case. I think it was just a ruling of a single judge. So they could appeal and get a more reasonable judge. But you have to think about time scales here, and you have to think about, as Alexander discussed, like, okay, got it. What's the probability of this happening again? What were the remedies needed? So if this were to happen again, they would be covered in terms of process and approach to the new compensation plan. Put those remedies in, and let's get the new one going and get it approved. I would hope they would have. This is what I've been saying all along. I would have hoped that leading up to this, through this whole process, that they were working on coming to silent terms, and then at the output of this case, be ready to go. I think this is a little bit of a surprise, but hopefully this was maybe one of the doors that they were working on, and have an approach ready to go where they've come to terms in the background. So okay. I mean, that's what we're hoping for. I don't think it's mass chaos. There could be some turbulence for some period of time. It's hard to predict, but it all depends how quickly the board and Elon move.
So, and Larry, Martin, do you remember? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, can I just go ahead and do this? So Martin Muldoon just pointed out Gary Black posted a lengthy post quoting the judge. And so I've got that ready to go here. And I think it's important for us to read what the judge actually said. And then I'll have you talk. Okay, so Delaware Chancery Court Chief is Judge Kathleen McCormick. This is what she said. This
same
decision
lady than before. Same lady
one,
than
yeah.
in the other case.
The Twitter. This decision dares to boldly go where no man has gone before, or at least where no Delaware court has tread. The collection of features characterizing Musk's relationship with Tesla and its directors gave him enormous influence over Tesla. In addition to his 21.9% equity stake, Musk was a paradigmatic superstar CEO who held some of the most influential corporate positions. He held the chair, he was the founder, he's the CEO, enjoyed thick ties with the directors tasked with negotiating on behalf of Tesla, and dominated the process that led to board approval of his compensation plan. At least as to this transaction, Musk controlled Tesla. The primary consequence of this finding is that the defendants bore the burden of proving at trial that the compensation plan was entirely fair. Delaware law allows defendants to shift the burden of proof under the entire fairness standard where the transaction was approved by a fully informed vote of the majority of the minority stakeholders. And here, Tesla conditioned the compensation plan on a majority of the minority vote. But the defendants were unable to prove that the stockholder vote was fully informed. The defendants were thus left with an unenviable task of proving the fairness of the largest potential compensation plan in the history of public markets. So her conclusion, the process for coming up with Elon's comp plan wasn't independent because Elon controlled the board and the directors who approved the plan weren't truly independent. Further, the state shareholders who approved the comp plan weren't made aware of this controlled relationship. Hence, the $55.8 billion comp plan is voided. Now what? Tesla can either appeal the decision. McCormick wrote a 200-page decision chock full of legal precedent that is as entertaining to read as it is detailed and informative, or come up with an alternate 2008 comp plan. Either way, uncertainty continues.
And
Right,
Elon
so-
just responded, right? He just said never incorporate in Delaware.
Right.
Yikes.
I read I read some of the key points in the decision, as did Gary, and I think I lit on the same items that he lit on, and quite a few more. In particular, the judge went into great detail about the independence of the directors. I think there is room for a lot of conversation, if not legal argument, around some of the points that were made in the judge's findings. It's brilliantly written, by the way, brilliantly written, as Gary said, quite entertaining. On the other hand, it's a very serious situation. I think it's going to be, I'm certain it's going to be appealed. The bigger issue is not that it's going to be appealed. The bigger issue is the uncertainty that it visits upon Tesla, its board of directors, and more importantly, its role, the role of Elon going forward. This cost, given the fact that he's already said he's very concerned about control, given this finding and given some of the hostility that principally competitors or those who are opposed to Tesla's success, given their hostility and their will to drive the company down, this is a dangerous time for Tesla. The shareholders have voted in favor of this. The vote in favor of this is argued to be not fully informed. That's the crux of what the judge is saying. That had the voters been fully informed, and that's a legal term of art in Delaware based upon precedent, I think. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm working from the seat of my pants. So that is going to be central to the conversation about whether or not an appeal is going to have value. But in the interim, Elon's left with this uncertainty about his control of the company. The board is left with uncertainty about their position. So this is not an enviable situation to be in. And I don't take the benign view that Alexandra is taking. I take quite a serious view of this, because I'm just considering Elon's strategic situation via Tesla. And I think it's quite a serious one.
Do you think tonight Elon has less influence on Tesla because of this, because of unexercised options? Exactly. So that's why, because you just said his influence on Tesla would be diminished. I don't think so.
I didn't say his influence on Tesla would be diminished. The future of his role. Look, this judgment almost requires Tesla to reform its board if they want to get a compensation plan for Elon done. This board cannot do that compensation plan. If you read this agreement, I don't see any way on earth that this board can get a compensation plan for Elon without a very considerable process of going to the shareholders in terms of making them, quote, fully informed to the Delaware courts.
Let me address that point. And Herbert, I don't know whether you got my table with the current board members. It's 8, it's not 9. I was wrong earlier on. The current setup is probably going to be under scrutiny. I see that, because the central person of all that is Ira Ehrenpreis, and there is obviously a friendship. Now, I haven't looked into the proxy statement of 2018, how the comp plan was introduced to shareholder vote, because that's probably the point where they feel there was not enough disclosure. But remember when the board members had to return their options a couple of months ago, last year in July, because it sort of comes always from the same corner, right? So at that moment, if I recall it right, it was Robin Denholm, Ira Ehrenpreis, James Murdoch, and Kathleen Wilson Thompson who had to return options they were holding because they didn't want to go to a judgment. So it was in arbitrage that they agreed to do that. So the same thing could happen now, right? The same, and if I recall it right, again, these are such fine details. I'm not completely sure of everything. But in that case, it was actually an accounting exercise that benefited in the next quarter to Tesla's balance sheet, right? So I do believe, if Elon is after a quick solution, I don't think he will appeal. Now, what seems to be the case from Gary's tweet is that there is judgment, because up to 10 minutes ago, we thought we only had this opinion and we're waiting for a judgment.
No,
but she seems to have voided it, right? We agree she has voided it?
Oh, yeah. She's just asking, the only uncertainty is she's asking the parties to come back with a final order that implements the plan. She's voided it. It's done. That's over.
Okay.
Now it's a question of how to go about the next steps. And that's what she's asking.
And I just don't think Elon wants to negotiate with another party that was going into this whole court case with the wrong intentions, right? If you're short sell, obviously
you're missing a point here, though, Alexandra. So I hate to look. I don't want to.
No, please do.
I think you're missing a point. This is you can't go back and create a plan for the future once the future has passed. It's now the past.
Sure.
You can't say, oh, well, if we give him this, then maybe he'll work hard and make it happen. We know what happened. Now the question is how to reward him for what happened. And we have that number, and the judge is saying that what he was rewarded was too much in the circumstances. I think, well, anyway, I think we can take it.
Well, okay, I think what I got out of this is from her judgment, the board is under Elon's control. That has to change right off the bat. So, Sawyer, can we bring you in? You basically announce this in breaking news like you often do. What's your read? What's going on?
Well, one, I'm not a lawyer, and this is a quite complicated topic, but it's a shocking ruling nonetheless. I'm not sure what this means short-term or long-term. Tesla could either appeal this, or they could just say, screw it, let's just move on to creating a new compensation package for Elon. I've kind of leaning towards, I think Elon's the type of person that would just want to move on and just get it over with and not appeal. That's sort of my thinking. Obviously, if they do that, I think this means he could not exercise his 300 million stock options that he got from the previous plan. He had it until, I believe, 2028 to do that. And if he can't do that, that effectively drops his net worth by roughly 55 billion, I think. But maybe what this also complicates like the next compensation plan, right? Because unless my thought was they could do a dual class share structure, and that would be the path to Elon getting 25%. But it sounds like from what Elon is saying, that's difficult to do post IPO. So really the only way to get Elon to 25% is just to give him a lot more money over the long period of time. Now that with this ruling, I think it's going to be difficult to do that. So they're going to have to be creative, the Tesla board, and I think with Elon's new compensation package, because I don't know how they get to. Elon currently owns roughly 13% net of taxes. If he was able to exercise those 300 million stock options that he hasn't yet exercised, that would bring him up to around 19%. But now if he can't do that, I don't know how they get there. So we'll see. I'm sure some lawyers will give their opinions on this and what this means, but that's sort of my initial.
We've got quite a number of people that have joined us. Can somebody give a summary of exactly what has happened? Does Elon have to pay back money? Does he have to pay back stock? Tell Musk, somebody review what exactly happened.
I don't think he would
Although-
have to pay back, is my understanding. I think it just affects what he hasn't exercised yet.
What he
it
hasn't
affects-
exercised it.
And it affects the finances of Tesla, who has already provisioned this money. So actually for Tesla, the company, it would be, I mean, not that that makes a difference and that's what I want, but I just want people to understand he doesn't have to sell anything. This isn't for Tesla now
Okay.
to suddenly open the pockets.
Guys, it's going to reduce significantly the number of shares. The options reduced by some gigantic proportion, and so the gap earnings are going to go up quite significantly.
Exactly. We were supposed to go from 3.1 billion shares to 3.4 by that moment, remember? Now we're back to 3.1. So
That's right.
all these calculations that are on earnings per share are going to profit from this because this money is going to fly back. I mean, not that anybody wants that, but the one thing I want to reassure people, it's not financially a problem for Tesla. It's actually even a benefit.
So let's just, Herbert's asked for a summary. Let's just summarize. Elon Musk had a compensation package, which was described by the judge and by many people as the greatest compensation package ever offered anybody at any time, and it was. And from this compensation package, he earned a huge number of options. I don't have their number at my fingertips, but I think it's 3 million options to be exercised in 2028 and beyond. That package, which was the largest pay package anybody's ever received, option package anybody's ever received, was taken to court in Delaware, where the company is registered, and that compensation package was challenged in court. People often mention it's by a shareholder who only had 9 shares and he was a short seller. That's meaningless. The point is, somebody was bound to contest this package because this package was so out of all proportion to anything that happened before. It was going to be challenged in court, and that the judge actually said that in as many words, or in even more beautiful words. The judge has found that the compensation package was too large in the circumstances, even given the circumstances of Elon Musk. That's in absolute terms. And he also found that the people granting the package, that is to say the board of directors, weren't sufficiently independent to be able to grant him that package. And the other thing I read is that the shareholders' approval of that package was null and void because it wasn't a sufficiently informed vote of the shareholders. The judge ordered the parties to go back into conference and come back to him with recommendations how to execute his findings that this thing should be voided, because it's quite complicated. We've just discussed the fact that all these options have to be extinguished. No doubt the board will have to be reorganized. I am fairly certain that this is going to be appealed. I think there are several grounds for appeal. I'm not a lawyer, but I would be very surprised, extremely surprised, if this is not appealed, because there are bases I've seen for appeal, at least the issue of the fully informed vote by shareholders, at the very least. And then the issue of the independence of the directors. So I think during the appeal, the company is going to research what to do if the appeal fails. And I think that time to give that consideration is very important, because it's going to be a very complicated answer. So that's my summary of where we are. Herbert, does that answer?
Perfect. Exactly. So they need to dissolve the board? Get new board members, then appeal?
No, they're separate issues, completely separate issues.
Separate.
But the judge's finding makes it very difficult for Tesla to move forward. And the reason is anything they do now is going to be challenged because the judge found that they're not an independent board. So I feel that they are going to have to make changes. They already tried to make changes to adjust in terms of bringing in independent people. But I've seen, some people even claim that who's the new board member from Redwood?
J.B. Straubel.
Yeah.
J.B. Straubel.
So anyway, it's an open issue. I think they're going to have to make some changes.
If I may jump in here again, I can't access my files because I did trace board members over 10 years, but there were more. There were obviously more. There was Elder and many other people that were on the board in the former days. One thing that strikes if you put up that table at the moment, Herbert, is that the current board, yes, has 8 members, but neither Elon nor Kimball are considered independent board members, so cannot participate in any of the committees. You have to know that the big charge of the board is always divided into committees of at least 3 people. Now, J.B. Straubel only was elected last year in May, so he's not yet in a committee. Joe Gebbia was just elected the year before, so he's at the moment only in the audit committee. So the 4 members, Robin Denholm, Ira Ehrenpreis, James Murdoch, and Kathleen, are actually the only 4 carrying 99% of the workload, right? So that is obviously thin. So rather than talking about a board shakeup, I do believe what's probably more realistic is adding new members to it with some specific competences in governance and points that obviously seem to derange this Delaware judge, to bring it to a bigger structure. Just because 2 of the members are so new that they're not yet on committees, they will be after the next shareholder meetings. There will be some appointments, but that will probably be the case that they will add some more.
Yeah, I'm surprised that this is the kind of the opinion of one judge on fairness of a compensation package or awareness of the shareholders. I think that's something that can be easily challenged. And really all these points around shareholder approval, the fairness of the compensation package, the market performance of the company, industry standards. I mean, what prior experience would inform this judge of how to align compensation to, for executives, and then just Elon's, influence over Tesla and really what the output was for shareholders. I think there's just so many points for this to be, appealed on. I'm wondering if this, was this kind of a decision, that was already made, and it's bizarre. I'm wondering what new information was presented that was so compelling that it moved her to write this opinion, or was this was this opinion already
Jeff,
there?
I think if you read the opinion, I think you would see that you're being a little unfair. I mean, she was very balanced in the approach. I don't think she came here with a predisposition. I think she tried to balance it, but I think you're right. I think there are very many grounds for appeal here, many grounds for appeal, and they're very fertile grounds. And she said that in the opinion. She said this is a very difficult case, to find balances. I think a lot turns on this whole notion that these people are, quote, friends with Elon Musk, unquote. And the issue of independence of directors. I'd love to see what the law is or what practice is around that issue of, quote, friends and so on, because so much turns on that. And the other issue is, I don't think she gave, in the opinion, sufficient weight to the actual results. I mean, she points to some of the some of the milestones being so, they actually knew they were going to hit those milestones, or she posited that they felt, that they were going to hit those milestones early, and they're the first 2 or 3 milestones. But some of those milestones were incredibly hard. I mean, they staggered me when I read them at the time, and yet they hit them. So I think there are a lot of areas, and she had freely admits it in several points in the judgment. I picked up 3 or 4 of them, where she said, this is difficult to judge. On the one hand, this, on the other hand, that. So I wouldn't be hostile to her. I would say she had a very difficult job. I'm just, trying to do this is going to be very difficult.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, it's less about being hostile. It's just more of, every shareholder, every employee, every board member gained benefit from Elon's performance during this compensation plan, and it's ironic that he would be the only person that would not gain benefit from his plan based on this ruling. And I go back to, I think there's just so many points that this could be argued on, and I'm wondering, is the play here to just plow forward onto the new plan, obviously try to remedy some of these, if there's any like obvious findings, remedy those, but really get onto the new plan, get closure to a new plan, and then maybe could they still even go back and appeal this in parallel? I just wonder if we've discussed that option as well.
This is what Dan Ives just posted out right now. Delaware court ruling, a shocker, ruled against Musk and Tesla, but this now clears the path for the board to create a new pay package and incentives that could supersede this and could solve a lot of the Musk ongoing frustration. Also could further lock Musk into Tesla. What do you guys think?
Well, that was exactly what I said initially. And I think you should also share what I just sent you from the accountant, which sums up what Larry and I said just earlier. Now, this one I'll get to in a second, if you don't mind. I also sent you the one from the accountant, where he sums up that, if this cancellation goes through, it is a crazy impact on earnings per share. So I just want to reassure everybody, because, Tesla Q is out there screaming. They think they're having a ball. Don't believe that. For the share price, all this has been provisioned. This was this big move from 3.1 to 3.4 billion shares that was supposed to happen up to 2028. If really it needs to be canceled, which, I mean, I'm completely against, but if it is, it is. This is actually positive for the Tesla shareholder in the immediate, and then a new plan can be in my gut feeling, but I may be completely wrong, is that Elon prefers to move on and get to a new situation rather than hang in this one that will most probably bring him, more pain to wait and sit it out. I want him motivated with a new package rather than having to cry over an old one. And I mean, I know obviously this is an enormous amount of money, but it will be compensated in one way or the other. And then I want to get to that other chart. So this was the accountant. You want to read that, Herbert?
Sure. It says this would have a perverse financial upside if ruling stands. I believe Tesla would add $2.3 billion back to profit and loss, the cost of the comp plan, driving earnings per share up, and it would remove shares from fully diluted EPS calculation, driving earnings per share up. Of course, this won't offset an unmotivated CEO, but financially, as you've been saying, Alexander, this is going to be good.
So that's the first point. And let me just finish my last, Larry, and then I give it to you. So in the last proxy in May, which happened, obviously, which was sent out in March, was this table. And you have to know that proxy was written after all the deliberations of this case. So they felt for the first time the necessity to add to the proxy statement and all votes, because there was obviously the vote to get GB Strobel then up and whatever, to show the competences and the key skills of each of the board of director members. I found that, I just found this again and wanted to show it. I think they understood during that whole procedure and the deliberations that came with it and everything, that they were weak on the communication side, both on, what do these board members bring with them, and how they complement each other. I blanked out Mizuno, who was replaced with GB Straubel, who is on the second last of that. But it should obviously, the optical reaction to this is, or should be, I think that's what they try to do. They say, okay, they got all the key skills, right? And so I think this was sort of preparing us for having more information about the composition of the board. I'm done. Sorry, Larry, to interrupt you later.
No, I've been interrupting everybody else, so I should probably shut up at this point and let other people opine.
Let's get Sawyer back in and Sander.
I was just going to add, I think what's crazy in all this is that this 2018 compensation package was approved by Tesla and its shareholders. And Larry, as you said, at the time, the market cap and the revenue milestones just seemed insane. But since then, Tesla stock is up about 10x and the revenue is up about 9x. So yes, Elon surely benefited quite a lot, but so did all the Tesla shareholders. So that's sort of the irony in all this, is someone with, like you said, the shareholder count that the person had 9 shares. It doesn't really matter. Just the fact that they were a shareholder matters. But nonetheless, everyone did well. So we'll see what they do with the next compensation package. I'm with Boomer Mama. I'm with Alexandra that I think he'll just want to move on and not appeal this, but we'll see.
And what a waste of energy.
Yeah. To me, it seems like government overreaching a matter that I understand laws, but like you guys are saying, you have a board, you have shareholders, anyone that purchased shares knew and was aware of the compensation package. Tesla is still worth $609 billion at the moment. So it's not like it was a pump and dump. And the solution that I heard Jeff come up on is something that I wrote down was, is it possible that the board can tie in the old compensation package into the new one, to make it just and not have a demotivated CEO, as well as, doesn't this just point out the reason why Elon wants 25% control? Because stuff like this can happen, and then all of a sudden you have nefarious actors impact decision making.
Yeah, but so this is my concern, right? So yes, it sounds like it's good, but precisely the problem was, the lawsuit was that Elon controls the board. And so if they try to create a new comp plan that, compensates him back for what he might have lost from the old comp plan.
No, but that it can it be presented to based on whatever the courts deem fit, in a manner that current shareholders can take the time to do their due diligence and jump through the hoops and whatever's necessary. Because
there seems to be a main concern about disclosure of relationships, tight relationships that may have influenced Elon knowing earlier. So they have to ensure that the next compensation committee is acting independently. So the two ladies on it, I don't think there is a doubt on Robin and Kathleen. I think the big doubt is on Ira. That was also the case. I read, it's been a while ago, but I read the notes that were on one of the other cases where he was particularly, questioned by the judge. It was, I don't remember which case it was, but he was really put on the spot. So I think it really crystallizes in the person of Ira Ehrenpreis, who is the longest standing member on the board. And I mean, those of you who were at the Cybertruck event saw him there. There is a friendship. There is no doubt. There's a close friendship with Kimball. There's a close friendship with Elon. And it was this. And I mean, I don't understand why it should not be allowed to have close friends on the board. Why would you all have to hate each other? And I don't think, contrary to Xander, that this is really political. I think this judge has thought this through. She may be more left-leaning than right-leaning. What do I know? But she didn't argue just out of her belly some mean, politically motivated arguments. I think she structured her thought. And she's not saying this is voided and can't be replaced. That may be the solution that Elon prefers to get over with it. She keeps the door open, right? So it's I don't think she's in a mean place where she really wants to harm, and this is Biden, Delaware against Elon, and what I don't see any of that in here. I think this is
Well,
just
this is a
just
judge that's found in her favor before, in the company's favor before. I just want to say one thing that maybe this group is missing. It is going to be impossible to construct a post facto payment remuneration plan for what has gone in the past. And given that that is going to be impossible, and that's for obvious reasons, I don't know if you want me to go through those, but given that it's impossible, I don't see a growth spurt, anything like, because we're starting from such a higher base, I don't see a growth spurt that could equal what the growth, Jeff, you may want to opine on this, but that could equal anything that we've had in the past, given how low a base we were starting from. So I can't see how the company is going to compensate Elon in a satisfactory manner. That's really the bottom line. And if you look at what the share price is doing right now on the market, we're down $8.94, which is, almost 5%. I think it's got another 20 points to go. So what the judge has done effectively is made the whole remuneration moot and impossible to recreate. And for that reason, I'm almost certain that they're going to have to appeal, because it is impossible to reconstruct. I mean, everybody's saying, oh, well, they go back and they reconstruct and they'll bring in. So it can't be done. You can't
not reconstruct, but that the new compensation plan
That's
is
the
more
point
generous,
Yeah.
is more generous for future milestones, higher allocations.
But you're starting from just do the math on it. The math is, it's the law of large numbers. We started with a very small number. A relatively minor percentage of that small number can be a huge amount of money. Now we're starting from a very big amount of money.
Well, Larry, do you really believe that $200 for the Tesla stock in the next 5 years is a huge number? If you believe that Tesla, because Elon told us last Wednesday that he believes it becomes the biggest market cap in all time, so that would mean more than 3 trillion. So 3 trillion would mean 1,000. If you start at 200 and you go to 1,000, that is as much as if you start at 20 and go to 200, right? So, well, no, not 20, but 40. But it is nevertheless, there is way to be done.
From 200 to 1,000 is 5 times. We went up 30 times. So trust me, the law of large numbers is going to make this very, very, very difficult.
I'm a little confused. I mean, they'll just have a higher weighting on those future milestones. I mean, there's ways to do this mathematically.
But if they have a higher weighting, Jeff, they'll have to explain that to a judge, because the judge has disallowed the lower weighting that they had. So
more disclosure,
but
different
I
was
just going to say, this can't be the way the world works moving forward, where like every single compensation plan has to be run by a judge in Delaware or wherever you're incorporated. Like, or is she on the board now? So to me, I agree with both of you. Like, this has to be appealed, and this has to be appealed on fundamental grounds, and they have to win that appeal. But I don't believe it's serial in nature. I do believe that they could move forward to a new plan, try to remedy if there's anything obvious or anything that they could do to kind of like, if there's anything they can do, they should probably try to do it, but they need to move on. They should have the new plan ready, quite honest. I would be really disappointed if they don't have the new plan ready, and then in parallel go back and appeal this. I think we're all surprised that this was actually this actually went in this direction. I can't imagine if this went on appeal again that they would lose again. But I mean, what are the chances of that? But I guess what were the chances of this happening? So I think we're humbled a bit,
So I
and
want to
everybody in
add
this
one.
case humbled.
Yeah, I want to add one element. When I read the 10K yesterday, I was actually surprised that we didn't have the date for the annual shareholder meeting in there. It would have been a appropriate moment to publish it, because if you don't do it exactly in a 12-month rhythm, which would be in May this year, if you do it much earlier, or if you do it later, you have to announce it and with certain delay. So it wasn't announced. I thought that's a bit strange. It would have taken a phrase at the end, but I thought, well, then probably it is in May. But one reason could be that they are currently working, first of all, up on the comp plan, also waiting for this judgment, but also on possible new members to add to the board. So that could be one of the reasons why this may be quite a period of announcements in the next couple of weeks, because there are not so many moments where you can make big changes. There's not that many, and you have to be ready with this proxy statement that comes out, if I recall it right, 45 days before the shareholder meeting. So let's say it's in May. That would mean in March it has to be published. We are end of January. There's not much time left to get this straightened out, to have it in this year's shareholder meeting. I mean, what really bothers me deep down is how demotivating this must be for Elon. And I mean, Elon is not the guy that is demotivated on Tesla, but you have all these options. There is this judge, whatever the motivation. Now you have to deal with this. It really blows my mind that a thing like that can happen.
I think what's interesting in all this is that I think something worth noting is that Elon couldn't game the 2018 compensation package. He had to hit those market cap milestones and those revenue milestones. And then when he did exercise the options in the pay package, he couldn't sell those shares for 5 years. So it couldn't be just some pump and dump. So the ruling is definitely a shocking one.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
agree
not
with
at
you.
all on the milestones. It's not at all on the milestones. It was in the proxy statement that was given to the shareholders enough disclosure about the close relationship of the people that came up with this compensation package, so that shareholders could know that, and when voting knew that there may have been some mingling and still agree to it or not. That seems to be the key.
So it's a technicality, because like Sawyer was saying, you put this comp plan in front of normal people, they will tell you this is hard to get. This has not been maneuvered in any way to make it easy for him, and his buddies made it so that he makes billions of dollars. But you're saying it's just a technicality. So my question is this, okay? So I'm kind of a little worried still after listening to all you guys, and I appreciate what you're saying, but okay, so not only does Elon need to have a new comp plan, this is positive. They're going to probably launch one soon. Could you lose Elon? Number one. Two, does this now allow it to be harder to get him the 25% that he wants, as opposed to easier? Because you need to reorg the board. And so maybe the new board may not be as, you never know what they're going to want to do.
I think objectively, this ruling, like Alexander said, is demotivating for Elon. But also objectively, I think Elon is best suited to be able to accomplish what he wants to with the resources that Tesla has. Leaving Tesla, he can't take that IP with him. He's really good and really efficient and great at building small teams that can accomplish a lot. But I think if he wants to do, robots and FSD and all these things, I think it makes sense for him to, stay at Tesla, use the resources that Tesla has, because it'd be really difficult to rebuild that elsewhere. And getting to 25%, like I said, I don't know how they do that unless they just create a similar structure where it's just like insane market cap milestones giving him, because he has like 13% right now. How do you get there? Well, you got to give him a lot of money. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see the meaningful difference from his last comp plan. Let's say his last comp plan went from 60 billion to 600 billion. Now he's got to go from 600 billion to 6 trillion. I don't. I mean that's what's going to be in front of them, and there will be no precedence for anybody building a $6 trillion company. So I think there's great linearity actually in the last plan and going to the next plan. That's why I would be disappointed if they haven't worked and roughed most of this out. Yes, this is like, okay, well, how do we respond to what the judge's ruling is? But again, I can't imagine a world where, building compensation plans for CEOs need to be run through, the judicial branch of this country. I could see this getting appealed. I don't know which court would actually take it, but eventually all the way to the Supreme Court. And I just can't see them wanting to be mired in this. But
no, the extent that this can go to is the Supreme Court of Delaware. That's the limit. Can't go to the Supreme Court. It's not a federal matter. However, just keen on what you just said, Jeff. The test about whether this is a good opinion or not is, does it benefit the shareholders of Tesla for this comp plan to have been instantiated, or is it against the interests of it? And here's the test. Every shareholder of Tesla, every real shareholder of Tesla, is bitterly disappointed by this ruling. And everybody who's opposed, every short seller, every Tesla Q member, everybody who's competing with Tesla are cheering for this, which is kind of perverse. It's about as perverse a test as you can get. This is the perversity of this judgment, is that it is not in Tesla's interest. And the test of that is, how are the shareholders receiving it? The stock is down by, after hours, by almost 4%. The shareholders are bitterly disappointed. So clearly it's a serious problem. Look, yeah, anyway, I've talked enough.
We haven't heard from Elon, except he did reply saying never start don't incorporate in Delaware. That's all he did. Are we going to hear from Elon? What do you think, Sawyer? Do you think he'll say something soon?
I don't know if he'll speak much on this, especially if they want to appeal it. He certainly won't say much more.
Yeah, I think he's talking to attorneys now.
Yeah, and what is I mean, you know Elon better than I do, but what is the man more after? Making this right or moving on? Because those are the two, appealing is just going to be months and years of hashing this out, and probably, I don't know, delaying the future compensation package. I don't know whether you can put a new one in case while you're appealing that with the current judgment. I really doubt that. Or whether you just think, well, we have to get somewhere. I mean, and it's in such a crucial moment as well. AI, the bot, everything.
It's $55 billion. It's not replaceable. Just given the law of large numbers, it is not replaceable easily. I think that they appeal, and I think they put a new compensation package in place at the same time as well.
Here's an opinion that's really funny. I thought, the best comp plan is no comp plan. And you know how Elon always takes a negative. He's able to do this before and turns into a positive. So there is an opportunity here, like everybody's saying. We can't see it. Some of you are able to articulate it better, but he might turn this. Just like you said, Alexander, we are now in a position to go AI and bot. He wants to have 25% control. Like everybody's saying, maybe the timing of a new pay package that is incredible, crazy good, is now acceptable to everybody because of what just happened now. So,
yeah, I just want to clarify that I didn't say it was political. What I'm saying is that this is an interference in capitalism. How can you take away a compensation plan from someone who created value, right? That if you take away incentives from entrepreneurs to chase the American dream, then what are we doing here? How can a judge make such a ruling that doesn't have a balancing force after it? So I don't think that you're going to have Elon walk away from Tesla because at the end of the day, the value was created, and and he has to be compensated for what he's done.
Yeah, I saw a tweet just a few minutes ago, and I'm not one for these crazy ideas, but the fact that this is Delaware, and the judge is in Delaware, and Mr. Biden, President Biden comes from Delaware. I mean, unfortunately, the optics are terrible. It couldn't be worse. But, I think, you have to balance these things. People are talking about going from 600 million to 6 trillion. Guys, 6 trillion, if 6 trillion is a reach even for Tesla. I mean, 6 trillion, it's, something like 4 or 5% of the world's GDP. It's really going to be a very significant reach even for Tesla. So I wouldn't just talk about going from 600 billion to 6 trillion.
They're going to have to be creative with it for sure.
Yeah.
And again, the point is much more governance, transparency, fiduciary risks. So I don't think it's about Milestone's money. I mean, of course, it comes down to money because it was such a huge amount. But it's what is really important is how they lay out and discuss and present in the proxy the next compensation plan. It is really important who sets it up. Everything is disclosed. America is all about disclosure. You can do everything as long as you disclose it.
Or they incorporate in Texas.
But can they change the Delaware structure to a Texas structure?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's messy, but it's doable.
Yeah, but I think it needs a supermajority, right?
No. Why would they need a supermajority?
Well, because you change the corporate governance of the.
You don't have to change it. Just acquire the company by the holding company in Texas. So
you're back to the X holding, where X holding acquires all of the Tesla shares?
Yeah. I mean, they have to move out of Delaware for sure, simply because, this is not a good situation for them to be in. And, they could move to Texas.
I remember a X case that he was able to move to Texas. Remember that maybe a year ago, Sawyer, I'm sure you remember, where he was really after a certain judge, and he was able to move the whole case to that jurisdiction to have that judge. So, I mean, the one thing we can all say is he has enough court cases in the last 2 or 3 years to now know what he wants to do. That's for sure.
Yeah, you can't move the jurisdiction of a case that's already established, because the company was in Delaware when that compensation plan was put in place.
No, that's not what I meant. What I meant is you move the company now to be in the county and a jurisdiction where you would put that holding. So because that's more up your line.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. We're going to move to an X space right now. So I'm going to tweet everybody the Twitter space. We're going to on the phone, and we're going to review everything that just happened. Appreciate everybody jumping on this right now. So I will post that right away, and then go to X, and please join us there. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.